the black cab, one of the most common sights on the streets of London, and a much-loved form of transport. About 300,000 people take a cab every day. The problem is finding one for hire. London cabs haven't always been so popular. When the first motorised cabs appeared in 1903, they were slow, noisy and smoky. Londoners were often scared to ride in them. Over the years, various companies attempted to refine the design. The London cab as we know it today was first launched in 1959 and has remained virtually unchanged ever since. At last. Taxi! Buckingham Palace, please. Thank you. The height of the cab's interior is a spacious 1.29 meters, and the distance between the facing seats must be at least 43.18 centimeters. This was originally to ensure that if a lady and gentleman sat opposite each other, their knees would not meet.
Here we are, madam, Buckingham Palace.
Oh, I'm not stopping here. What really makes London cabs so special are the drivers, or cabbies as they're often known. So what is it like being a cab driver?
Very difficult. It's quite a responsibility, taking people around, having them in your charge.
In London, it's great fun, it really is.
The best thing about being a cab driver is if you don't want to get up in the morning and go to work, you don't.
So what are the good parts of the job?
The good parts of the job, you can go home when you want, you can get out of bed when you want and go to work when you want. There's no boss telling you when to go to work, when not to go to work, and that's the great part about the job.
It's very, very flexible.
And the bad parts?
When you don't go to work, you don't get paid, and the traffic.
Going to work, that's the bad part about it.
How many hours do you work a day?
Between 10 and 12, approximately.
About 10 to 12 hours a day.
How many journeys do you make on average day?
About 30, I would say.
An average cab driver, if he's working in the centre of London, does 25 trips a day.
About 25 to 30 a day, usually.
So how many miles do you travel a day?
I would say I do 150 to 200 every day.
About 120 to 130 miles a day.
And how far do you drive?
Anywhere that people want to go.
So you go to Scotland?
Go to Scotland if you can pay.
How many cab drivers are there in London?
About 21,000.
And how many of them are female?
Now, a couple of hundred.
Can you tell me what the cabs are like to drive?
They're very good now. Up until about 5 years ago, they didn't have power steering or power brakes, which made it very difficult.
So are the cabs easy to drive?
Yes, they are. They're beautiful. Power steering, electric windows, power brakes, have a CD player, everything I could possibly want.
Ask a cab driver to take you anywhere in London and he or she will almost certainly know exactly where to go. That's because all cab drivers have to go through a very tough and thorough training called the knowledge. People who want to be cab drivers have to learn the name of every street in central London. There is no grid system, like there is in New York, for example, to make the task easier. London has a medieval street pattern. There are 16,000 streets in an area of 113 square miles, and they have to know exactly where each one is. They also have to memorize routes, or runs as they are called. Getting on a moped and driving around is the only way to do this. But that's not all. They also have to know where to find every restaurant, hotel, theatre, cinema, department store and public building on every street. No wonder it's called the knowledge.
To learn the streets, you go out on a moped because it's the only way to learn. If you went in a car, you would cause an accident because you have to keep stopping to have a look at the buildings. You have to learn nearly all the streets in central London and a lot of the buildings there. For example, all the airlines, all the embassies, all the hotels, and when you're examined, you're not asked the main hotels, you're asked the very small ones.
The learner cabbies are tested on a regular basis. They have to pass one stage of the knowledge before they can move on to the next. The tests are difficult and the failure rate is high. Only 3 in 10 learner cab drivers will go on to become London cabbies. So how long did it take you to learn the knowledge?
It took me 18 months to do the knowledge.
It can take anything from 2 years to 5 years. It took me 22 months.
Is it difficult to learn?
Very. And at this time of the year when it's cold, you get extremely cold on the bike. You can spend 5 or 6 hours out on your small motorbike learning all these things, writing all these things down.
So you've got to be prepared to give up a lot of time, a lot of social time, and work extremely hard almost every evening.
If the learner cab driver passes the final exam, he is awarded his license. He also receives what is known as a Bible, not the religious kind, but a rule book. It deals with an essential part of the job, passengers. Are most passengers polite?
Yes, the majority of them are.
95% of the people are very polite.
85% of the passengers are polite, yes.
Who are the best passengers?
The best passengers are the...
The worst passengers are people who give you the wrong address and then moan when you can't find where they want to go.
Have you had any famous people in your cab?
I have, yes, quite a few. It's difficult to remember all of them, but Joan Collins very recently, Robin Williams.
Dustin Hoffman,
Duchess of Kent,
Sean Connery,
Clint Eastwood,
Muhammad Ali, Charlton Heston,
Annie Lennox.
Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman.
And still on the subject of passengers, has anything funny ever happened to you?
Yes, once in the city, a Japanese man flagged me down and said he wanted to go to what I thought was Ascot, but it was Earl's Court. Luckily, I questioned him because Ascot is a long way out of London and a very expensive journey, and we found out it was Earl's Court.
Thanks very much. Number 9 there. Yeah, but Horseway Road, please. That's first call. Yeah, Papa Sierra, 05.
To provide an even better service, many cabbies belong to radio-controlled taxi services like this one. Here at Computer Cab, they handle 1 call a second, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. All their cabs are fitted with transmitters that are tracked by satellite. When a call comes through, the controller looks at the screen to find out the exact location of each cab and can then send out the cab nearest to the caller. The technology may be much more sophisticated than in the early days of the London cab, but one thing never changes. Wherever you want to go in London, you can be sure a cabbie will always know how to take you there. Can you take me home, please?
What course, madam?